excellence in sports entertainment.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I'm your host, Harry Fling. New look, new background, new appearance, new everything. I'm in a new location now, so I had to move things out last week, but I managed to get it all straightened out in time enough for our next video, which the topic of the day is another rewriting Wrestlemania. Yes, you guessed it, folks. And today we're going to be rewriting Wrestlemania 3. And welcome to Wrestlemania 3! Live Sunday, March 29th, 1987, from the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. I wasn't born until 1989, so I actually did not get to witness this WrestleMania live and in person, or live via pay-per-view or whatever. Excuse me. But I have to say, it's definitely the first great WrestleMania, if you will, and I use the term great loosely because, you know, it's a very subjective term. Everybody's got a different opinion on that. I think as far as one of the greatest of all times, yes, it was probably I definitely would say it was the first. One was great in its own right because it was the first WrestleMania and the celebrity involvement, but the matches were kind of wonky and left something to be desired at the very least, at the most. And WrestleMania 2 was all over the place, quite literally, because they were in 3 separate cities, New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. And it didn't have the same feel as if being in one location. And then WrestleMania 3 took it to a whole new level. Now, at first, there was debate as to what the host city was going to be. WWF debated going back to Madison Square Garden. I think they even debated going to, what was another arena they wanted to go to? I think they wanted to go to like Minneapolis or, you know, someplace random like that. Not that that's a bad thing. And Los Angeles got another bid for WrestleMania, just like as they were just there the previous year for 1/3 of the show. But Pontiac, Michigan finally got the final vote here. And yes, Vince McMahon, at first they thought they were just going to sell out the floor seats and maybe just the upper few rows, but no, he wanted to go all out. So there's a lot of discrepancy when it comes to the 93,000 fans in attendance that night. 93,173. Now, it's disputed because who's actually going to go in there and count all those fans? You're just counting ticket stubs. I'm sure you hire a statistician to do that. To keep those facts going. But seriously, you know, what was I going to say? How do you justify the fact? I mean, when they do these attendance records, how do they come to that number precisely and, stick with that? It just sort of boggles my mind. But be that as it may, it was probably the biggest attendance until WrestleMania 32 in Dallas when they had, 100,000 fans, something like that. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about numbers. Let's get off that topic. We're going to rewrite the card, and overall it was a great card. I mean, the main event was a huge draw, but it was not a great match. Hogan and Andre, which we'll talk about later. The best match of the night was obviously for the Intercontinental Championship, which I'm going to get into great detail about soon enough. And yeah, you had some other bouts too that were sort of eye-catching and really carried their weight, so to speak. So, there's a lot on this card that seems to have been forgotten about, but it's not all bad, per se. So let's get into it, shall we? So before I even get into the first match, I've basically rearranged some of the matches, the outcomes, and some of the participants, and to a lesser extent, some of the match types and the actual matches themselves. I got rid of 2 matches that were actually on the card that night, one being Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules Hernandez, while the other one was the match involving the midgets. It was Hillbilly Jim, the Haiti Kid, and Little Beaver taking on King Kong Bundy, Little Tokyo, and Lord Littlebrook. I just thought those 2 matches just didn't quite scream WrestleMania to me. And that's just, personal opinion, so views here are subjective only of me. Views, how does it go? The views expressed in this video are those of Harry Fling, or something like that. All right, now I can finally get into it. Our first match of the evening would be a tag team attraction. The Killer Bees, Brian Blair, and Jumping Jim Brunzell, taking on the duo of Cowboy Bob Orton and the Magnificent Morocco, managed by Mr. Fuji. Managers were oh so prevalent in the late 80s. This is the golden era we're talking about. So everything seemed just right here. Wrestling was really at its first peak. My personal favorite being the Attitude Era and that peak, but we're in a different era tonight, folks. So, in this match, what really happened was it was Orton and Morocco taking on the Can-Am Connection, But I'd switch it around here because I think the B is actually a better choice to open the show. B. Brian Blair jumping Jim Brunzell. I think they first started out together. I want to say as AWA. Jim Brunzell was definitely a big name in AWA as a singles competitor. He was on the documentary The Spectacular Legacy of the AWA. B. Brian Blair is from Tampa, Florida, so he might have competed in the championship wrestling from Florida territories. But they did meet in a regional promotion and then came to WWF in 1985. So around this point in time, they were starting to go with the mask gimmick. They wear identical masks, and they do the twin magic, which the Bella Twins would later be famous for, though the Bella Twins do not wear masks. So, I'd have the Killer Bees still dress as they did that night instead of the yellow boots that they wore, calf-length boots, or semi-calf-length boots. They'd wear knee socks instead, with yellow sneakers with knee socks and then their usual knee pads. So the Killer Bees, it's kind of a cheesy gimmick. I mean, you can't take that seriously. It's not threatening enough. A bee, I'm being attacked by a killer bee. Well, I mean, the bee insect itself, yes, but it just came across as childish, that gimmick, and really no upward momentum. Now, as for the other two, they seemed like they were kind of thrown together. Cowboy Bob Orton, second generation star, father of the legendary current WWE superstar, definitely a legend in his own right. Randy Orton, the Viper, Apex Predator, legend killer. Magnificent Morocco had a great career too, former Intercontinental Champion, and I think he and Tito Santana had some great matches in the mid-'80s, and it wasn't long until he's, started using his first name, Don Morocco, and he was actually the first man to use The Rock. A lot of people forget about that these days. He was the original Rock, but nowhere near as great or on the level as Dwayne Johnson. Come on now. The Rock, Don Morocco. Yeah, I like to forget about that point in time. I mean, he was paired up with superstar Billy Graham by then. But back to the match, I'd have the Killer Bees going for a lot of quick offense, a lot of quick tags, double drop kicks, double clothesline, whatever. Orton and Morocco would provide the opposition with the brute force and strength. Morocco was deceivingly agile for a guy with possessing a lot of strength. Orton just kind of used a ground and pound style, much like, he did that famous knee drop just like his son Randy does now. Fuji would definitely get involved in this one, and I would have him attack one of the bees with his cane, and then that would, Orton and Morocco would get the win after that. So give the Duke to the heel team on this one. It would probably be a short 3-4 minute match. Doesn't need to be terribly long. Our next match is one that I'm definitely reinventing because it was on the card in a 6-man tag match, so I split up a 6-man tag and made it 2 separate matches, one being a tag match, which we'll get to later on, and then one being a singles match. That singles match being Tito Santana versus Dangerous Danny Davis. Danny Davis was a referee who turned into a crooked referee after quite some time. He was cheating and favoring the heels. Fast counts, not breaking up feet on the ropes or grabbing the tights, kind of like Sylvain Grenier later on, and what's that guy I hated so much? Brad Maddox. Oh, so uncharismatic. So those guys did the whole crooked referee gimmick, and Danny Davis was the first to do it. So Danny Davis would be managed by the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, because, he helped the Hart Foundation win the tag titles a couple of months before from the British Bulldogs. And definitely have Danny Davis go over in this one, because he's just starting out his heel gimmick, and Tito Santana has sort of, been devolved into the enhancement talent role. He was a 2-time Intercontinental Champion, lost the belt in February of '86 to Macho Man Randy Savage. And yeah, so he's sort of, he's a curtain jerker basically at WrestleMania in these early years. And then Danny Davis, definitely a heel tactic would have to be used in order to win this match by Davis himself. Grabbing the tights, going for an inside cradle, whatever he needs to do. Or use the megaphone, no less. Hart could toss in the megaphone, and yep, that's perfect. Like the previous match, it doesn't need to go long, and Tito would definitely get, he might not have won the battle, but he'll definitely win the war, because he might not have won the match, but he'll get his comeuppance. So he'll take off Jimmy Hart's jacket and have him running scared to the back. So, post-match beatdown at the hands of one Tito Santana. Tito, by the way, I probably told you this in the WrestleMania 9 video. He's 1-7 at WrestleMania. It's not the greatest record, but if you count WrestleMania 9, it would have been 2-7, but that was a dark match. All right, match number 3. These are two guys that didn't even make it onto the card, and I'm surprised why, because they were getting very over. Well, not very over, but they were getting over enough, especially with the younger audience. This match would be Outback Jack versus Kamala. And Kamala would be accompanied by the Wizard, the famous King Curtis Ayukea. You might remember him from WCW when he was in the Dungeon of Doom stable in that crappy angle with Hulk Hogan. Ow! It's not hot. So ridiculous. And not only would the Wizard be accompanying Kamala, but Kim Chi as well, played by Steve Lombardi. Steve Lombardi, from Italian from the Bronx. All right, here we go. Brooklyn. No, he's a Brooklyn brawler. All right, anyways, Outback Jack, Peter Stillsbury, was a journeyman from Humpty-Doo, Australia. From the Humpty-Doo region of Australia. And his gimmick was a play of the character from Crocodile Dundee. Crocodile Dundee was a movie that came out in 1986. And Paul Hogan, an Australian actor, was the star of that movie. So Outback Jack is supposed to be portraying the main character of Crocodile Dundee. It's sort of a spoof, I guess, if you will. And he came to the ring with Timey Kangaroo Down Sport, which, when I first heard that as a kid, I didn't even know who Outback Jack was. Who the hell is this guy? I don't even have his action figure. He has an LJN out there. And I remember listening to his theme. It was on this website, Space Sports, where you could get wrestling themes illegally and download them. We all did it. Come on. And basically went, Timey Kangaroo Down Sport, Timey Kangaroo Down. Kind of a nice Australian jig, if you will. And Kamala, the Ugandan Giant, I've talked a lot about him. He's missed a lot of WrestleManias except 17. He finally got the payday at the Gimmick Battle Royal of all places. But some people don't like to count it because it's not the most memorable match for a lot of those legends. So Kamala, yeah, he was running roughshod, and he actually was, in the upper mid card, yeah. Not quite main event level, but definitely upper mid card. And he was challenging Hulk Hogan for the WWF title, I think throughout like the summer, fall of 86, well into 1987. And the Wizard was basically a guy who could bring about spirits. He claimed to have the reason why he got the name the Wizard is because he claimed to have spoke to the late great Ernie Roth, who was the Grand Wizard who died in 1983. So it's kind of carrying over that gimmick a little bit. And Kim Chi was this masked man. He basically had a black circle over, the mask. It was a beige mask, and it looked like an insect's eye or something. So he didn't have any emotion or any expression. He was just a handler. So Kim Chi was always a questionable gimmick for me. So anyways, Kamala, being under the influence of the Wizard and Kim Chi, was definitely out there to wreak havoc. And I could easily see this swinging in both directions, but Outback Jack would come out the winner. He would just, catch Kamala off guard with the boomerang. That was like a clothesline to the back of the head. Like that. Oh, the boomerang, and then that's it. 1, 2, 3. All right, next match. Oh, now this match took place in real time, but I changed the outcome. The loser must bow to the winner's feet. The Junkyard Dog versus King Harley Race. Harley Race was handsome Harley Race upon his arrival in WWF, but when he won the King of the Ring tournament in 1986, gone were the days of handsome, and entered the King. So the Junkyard Dog, wow, what a crowd favorite from the mid to late 80s. He had the crowd in the palm of his hand just by his charismatic presence and his promo ability and all his theatrics in the ring and his presence alone. He had a great look. Sylvester Ritter we're talking about. He was in a car crash and died in 1998. I remember hearing about that. I was only 9 years old. But yeah, Junkyard was very over, and Grab Them Cakes was a hit on the wrestling album, and he performed at the 1986 Slammy Awards. So I'd have Junkyard Dog come out the winner here. Bobby the Brain Heenan would be in the corner of King Harley Race, and that's not the first time we're going to see the Brain tonight. And Fabulous Moolah would be there. She's the current women's champion at the time, and she's carrying the crown. So I guess this was for the crown, but it wasn't explicitly stated, so that part was always a gray area for me. So Harley Race won in real time, typical heelish tactics. But I have Junkyard Dog win, and then have someone like Tito Santana come out, former tag team partner of his. They were teaming a lot together, JYD and Tito, throughout the mid-'80s. Tito Santana could come out and force to fend off Heenan and Moolah, and then force Race to kiss the feet of JYD. So that's how I'd have that match go down. The next match was also kind of a repeat as far as, the same match is concerned, but I would definitely change the outcome in this one because this angle I found so convoluted. This next match is another tag team attraction, the Dream Team, comprised of Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus Beefcake, along with their manager, Luscious Johnny Valiant, shortened to Johnny V. And also in their corner is a third member of the Dream Team, or would later become a member, Dino Bravo, Canadian strongman. And their opposition, the Rougeau brothers, Jacques and Raymond. Now, the Dream Team, I don't remember exactly, I don't recall ever how they got that name, but I don't really call these two a Dream Team. You'd have to think of, something more epic, maybe like Hogan and Austin, or I don't know, Jericho and Steamboat. People, different generations, like a dream match, a dream team. You could think of it in that context, but never Beefcake and Valentine. Seemed kind of random to me, but oh well, what the hell. So, they had just lost the tag belts a year earlier to the Bulldogs, WrestleMania 2. So they were kind of losing steam as a tag team at this point, I think. So that's why they brought in Dino Bravo, because then they were going to be like one of those, like the next Fabulous Freebirds, perhaps, do the Freebird rule if they were to ever win the tag titles with Bravo joining on the team. Now, the Rougeau brothers I'd have come out victorious. The Dream Team were victorious in real time. I think it was like Beefcake pinned like Raymond. And, it was so convoluted because it was like they all celebrated except for Beefcake. It's like he was upset because his manager cheated to help his team win, which is very ass backwards, because wouldn't you be happy that your manager, wouldn't you be on the side of your manager if he's helping you win the match? Wouldn't this be a whole team thing? And you'd be overjoyed if you were the heel in this going into this match. So that ending was so convoluted. Like Beefcake's like, they're like, what the hell just happened? I know we won the match, but you fucked it up or something. I don't know. He was upset for whatever the hell reason. And so the Rougeaus, if they were to win this match, it would have made more sense. Like there could be a miscue on the Dream Team's part from either Bravo or Valiant. And then Beefcake would get pinned either by Jacques or Raymond. And that would be that. And then Beefcake would actually go out on his own after this. This would be a perfect time to turn him face because, he wasn't getting anywhere. So Beefcake would be out of the Dream Team, leaving Bravo and Valentine to be billed as the new Dream Team, which didn't end up working out so well because in reality, Valentine and Bravo did not get along in real life. So their tag team matches were less than stellar, and they lasted till the end of '87, then went their separate ways. And Johnny V was out of the company by then. He had nothing to do with, the tension between Valentine and Bravo, but he was just the kayfabe manager at the time. He's ready to leave WWF. So, let's see. So that's what happened, and then hence the birth of Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who we'll talk about actually right about now, because that leads us nice segue into this next match, which I'd keep exactly the same, the hair versus hair match, the so-called retirement match for Roddy Piper. He was going to try and make movies, which he did in 1988, but 87 to 88, but then he ended up coming back to pro wrestling. So these retirement matches are a joke and a half these days. So Roddy Piper taking on the adorable one, Adrian Adonis. Piper turned face, I think in the fall of '86. Adrian Adonis claimed he was the hottest act as far as talk shows were concerned in the world of pro wrestling. And so he's been taken over with the Flower Shop. Adrian Adonis took after Gorgeous George in the 40s. And who's that other guy? Adorable Adrian Street in the 70s, I want to say. So this gimmick was actually punishment, because he was a big deal. Adrian Adonis, I forget what promotion he was in. It was either AWA or World Class Championship Wrestling or somewhere. Mid-South. I think it was Mid-South Wrestling. And, he was basically a leather jacket-clad, hunk of a man, and had a crew hat to fit with it, and he was in better shape. He got overweight, got out of shape over time, and Vince McMahon was not too happy about it, so he punished him by giving him this effeminate gimmick. So he came out in the largest size pink trunks for a male wrestler you've ever seen, and he had flowers in his hair, and he put a lot of makeup on, very frilly things. Definitely very effeminate. He wasn't gay or anything, but, he was just getting in touch with his feminine side, like Rico Constantino and Billy and Chuck many years later. So Roddy Piper had enough of Adonis stealing the spotlight with the Flower Shop over Piper's Pit. Piper's Pit had sort of gotten tamer because Roddy the heel wasn't, running that show anymore. Roddy the face, definitely ran the show, took it in a different direction, needless to say. So Roddy Piper attacked the set in the week of the Flower Shop in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania 3, so the Flower Shop was gone. The match would be just the same, and he'd win with the sleeper hold, and then this is where Brutus Beefcake would come out to assist with cutting the hair of adorable Adrian Adonis. And, yeah, that's how we got the name the Barber, because he finally could put his tools to use, and a new gimmick was born, and should have taken off, but he only stayed in the mid card, so that's that. And Adonis was not long for this world after he died in the summer of '88, sadly. So I think that was his last appearance in WWF, and then he was gone. Then Piper came back, so that's all I got to say about that. All right, a singles bout coming up next. Also kind of on the same card. Also a match that happened in real time, but yet again, I'm changing the result. Coco Beware versus the Natural Butch Reed. Both kind of newcomers-ish. Around this time, they came in like the fall of '86. Coco had a really strong start. He got a lot of wins early on, but it wasn't long until he became enhancement talent. And he started putting over bigger, more established stars. So I don't think Butch Reed counts as a bigger, more established star. But I think they had big plans for Butch Reed, and things kind of went south. I don't know. He was supposed to be Intercontinental Champion. That went to the Honky Tonk Man. But that's another story for another day. So I have Coco win this one. Butch Reed won in real time. He grabbed the tights, used the ropes, whatever, and won the match. But I'd have Coco win. Butch Reed would be accompanied by the Doctor of Style, Slick, whom you'll see later on in this card too. So don't forget about Slick. Slick actually debuted, also in the fall of '86, and he looked like he was dressed up in this what color is it? It was like a gold suit, gold zoot suit he had on with the top hat, and he was ready for downtown Detroit, as Jesse the Body Ventura said on commentary that night. So. I have Coco go over in this one. Coco was so agile for a guy who wasn't necessarily in the greatest shape. He's only 5'8", 228 pounds, probably the smallest wrestler we had in the '80s at the time. There was no cruiserweight division to speak of. There were no 200-pound guys like you see today. So Coco was doing missile drop kicks, clotheslines off the ropes, you name it, and elbow smashes. And he would actually win this one with the Ghostbuster, as he called it. It was just a stalling suplex. He'd hold him in the air forever, and then boom, bring him down. That was the Ghostbuster by Coco Beware. So he'd knock Slick off the apron, and I think Slick's cheating would backfire on him, and then Coco would get the win. And Coco says this is the best moment of his career. He was coming out to Morris Day and the Times' Do the Bird. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Goes something like that. Anyways, so that's that. Next match would be a 2 out of 3 falls match for the WWF Tag Team Championships, a first of 3 championships to be decided here tonight. The Hart Foundation with their manager, the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart was also in Adrian Anas' corner, I forgot to mention. Will be defending against the British Bulldogs, the team that they took the belts from. This is January of '87. It was a controversial finish with the use of the megaphone. The Hearts won, but referees decided to count it anyways. Well, that was Danny Davis who officiated that match. So he was a referee at the time, and before he got exposed, he was still legal to make that call. So this would be a great match. I love watching early Bret Hart, those tortoiseshell glasses and those Adidas striped tights. And the slick back long hair, cocky heel Bret Hart. He was not great at promos back then, but he tried, so it was great that he had Jimmy Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart alongside with him. Jim the Anvil could cut a promo. Great powerhouse in the ring, not a great technician. That's where Bret shines, but damn was he good on the mic. But Bret needed the work on it, and Bret got better come the '90s. So yeah, Bret Hart, yes, I loved him as a heel in '87. And they're taking on the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and the Dynamite Kid, Tom Billington. I was just watching Dark Side of the Ring once again of Tom Billington, Dynamite Kid. And it's a sad story what ended up, the way he conducted himself and just everything that happened in his life. But I'm here to talk about the match. So it would just be back and forth agility, especially from Kid, Smith, and Hart. Anvil would just be the powerhouse, the sole powerhouse of this match. But he had his agile moments. And so I would definitely have the Hart Foundation go over in this one. They just won the belt. So the Harts would win the first fall. Jimmy would cheat. The Bulldogs would get an upset in the second fall. Third fall, the Harts would end up cheating again. Actually, no, they wouldn't cheat. It's Bret we're talking about. I would have him and Dynamite Kid go for a finish here, with like a nice roll-up. And kind of like the way Owen beat Bret at WrestleMania 10 clean, I would have Bret beat Dynamite Kid in that same manner. Dynamite Kid was like a ping pong ball back and forth in that ring. He was especially great, but at a price, he had to pay a big price for how great he was in the ring physically. So that's what led to the deterioration of Tom Billington physically and mentally. So that's a match. If we didn't get it, instead we got the Hart Foundation and Danny Davis taking on the British Bulldogs and Tito Santana, which was an okay match, but they gave this match enough time. I would say give this match at least 12, 13 minutes. Oof, that'd be perfect. All right. This next match is going to be the best match of the night. I still love this match and rave about it to this day, even though I wasn't born yet. The Intercontinental Championship, Macho Man Randy Savage with the lovely Miss Elizabeth in his corner, taking on the challenger, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, with George the Animal Steele in his corner. Randy Savage crushed the throat, the larynx of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat on an episode of Superstars. Steamboat couldn't breathe. He sold that angle so well. He dropped him right on the guardrails. Oh, the dragon can't breathe. Somebody help this man. Vince McMahon on commentary, and he's struggling. Ricky Rainbow is, and he can't breathe. So anyways, yeah, that leads to that feud. That leads to that feud opening up, and George Steele, who was a frequent challenger for Savage's Intercontinental belt at the time and lost a year prior at WrestleMania 2, was going to be in Steamboat's corner just to provide protection. Heaven forbid that Savage get out there and, try to pull that shit again with trying to crush his larynx on the guardrails. Now, what can I say about this match that hasn't already been said? I think it went 14 and a half minutes, which is awesome. It's a 5-star match. I have absolutely no complaints. I'd keep the result exactly the same, Steamboat winning. Savage was going to go for the elbow drop, but George Animal Steele pushes him off. And then Steamboat eventually goes for an inside cradle for the win. And, the place just erupted. That match is like the marquee match of WrestleMania 3 for me. Fuck Hogan and Andre. I'm sorry. But I thrive on great technical wrestling. And you can still have a charismatic personality and, be a great wrestler. Come on now. And Ricky Steamboat in that moment, and Randy Savage to a great extent too. Just wowed the crowd that night with everything they did in that ring. It shows us why we became fans in the first place. Arm drags, takedowns, leg drops, suplexes, aerial assaults, you name it. It was all done. Elizabeth did a great job as a manager, just trying to keep the peace in all this. Still loved Randy, but didn't like the way he was acting on a professional note. Man, great storytelling too. Everything leading up to the feud was great, and it's too bad Steamboat didn't have a more legendary run with the belt, as his son was about to have a baby. His wife Bonnie was about to have a baby, Richie Steamboat from FCW in the early days of NXT, and Vince McMahon was none too pleased that the champion requested time off. So as punishment, he made him drop the belt, which originally was supposed to go to Butch Reed, but Butch Reed I think no-showed that night, or something happened travel scheduling conflict wise. So the belt went to the Honky Tonk Man, and that lengthy 454-day Intercontinental title reign was born. Great match. Cooling down from that match, I got 3 more to go. Speaking of Honky Tonk Man, he's in this next match, which I keep exactly the same. Jake the Snake Roberts versus the Honky Tonk Man. Honky Tonk Man would have the Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart in his corner, and in Jake Roberts' corner, the legendary rock star Alice Cooper from Detroit, Michigan. Because Pontiac's not far from Detroit, it's, within the municipality. So yeah, I'd have Honky win, feet on the ropes, exactly as planned. And this all started this feud, Honky Tonk Man was supposed to be the babyface going in, and Jake Roberts was supposed to be the heel. Honky Tonk Man came in as a babyface, asking the fans for a vote of confidence. Just, it's like he's asking for their love and affection. You like me, you really like me. It seemed kind of desperate and just out of character for an Elvis impersonator, but what the hell were they even going for? I have no idea to this day. So eventually it got to a point where Honky, cut these promos saying, okay, so you don't vote for me, you don't give me a vote of confidence, well, I don't care about you fans either. And that's where the heel turn started. So he really envisioned himself being the next Elvis Presley, or being better than Elvis Presley, with Jimmy Hart being renamed the Colonel, like Colonel Tom Parker, Colonel Jimmy Hart. Jake Roberts, the face turn I think happened on the Snake Pit, another talk show at the time. Honky hit him in the back with a real guitar, not a fake one. Jake was actually not too pleased about that in real life. As well, he shouldn't be too pleased about it, because he actually left some nails and wood and some screws, I think, in his back and neck. And yeah, his neck was never the same after that. So that's what kind of led to his painkiller addiction in the beginning. So Honky would win this one, but Jimmy Hart would get, Jake and Alice Cooper would get their comeuppance and scaring Hart with Damien the Python. That's that. Oh, by the way, before I forget, Honky Tonk Man came out to the ring with this entrance theme that's so hard to find, but I found it on YouTube. That's All Right, Honky Tonk Mama goes. He didn't always have cool, cocky, and bad, so just a little fun fact there, anecdotal thing. All right, our second to last match, our penultimate match, is another tag team attraction. The Can-Am Connection taking on Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik, now managed by the Doctor of Style Slick. Can-Am Connection were Can-Am short for Canadian American, were a team comprised of American Tom Zenk and Canadian Rick Martel. Tom Zenk and Martel, much like the new Dream Team, did not get along in real life, and Tom Zenk argued with Martel over their compensation. That's what led to Zenk leaving the company, and that's how Strike Force was born. Sorry, I can't talk sometimes. Strike Force came about because they were going to push the Can-Am Connection to the tag belts, and then Zenk left the company over the aforementioned issue, and that's that. So anyways, in this match, Can-Ams were great in the ring, you know, quick offense. They were like we couldn't get the Rockers at the time, so we had to settle for this team. Quick offense with forearms, drop kicks, whatever. Volkov and Sheik were previously managed by classy Freddie Blassie, but Blassie, I think, was retiring from traveling and managing at the time, so he sold their contracts to Slick. So I'd have Volkov and Sheik already be in the ring. Volkov's going to serenade us with the Russian national anthem. Fans are going to throw garbage in the ring, which they did in real time. And this was the match with the Killer Bees that they had. And Duggan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who hadn't even debuted yet for the company, came out and attacked Sheik and Volkov and scared them out of the ring so the Killer Bees could come out. I'd have no Duggan involved in this match. It would just be a straight-up bout, but I'd have the Can-Am Connection go over because of a miscue by Sheik and Volkov. And, yeah, that's that. Slick, not a great night for the Doctor of Style. Now, Iron Sheik would not be long for the company after, because him and Duggan in May of '87 got pulled over for marijuana on the Jersey Turnpike, among other drugs, too. It wasn't just weed. They got pulled over for narcotics, painkillers, you name it, and they were seen riding together, so Vince hated when the Faces and Heels, who were supposed to be rivals at the time, traveling together in the same rental cars. Oh my God, that was quite an incident. I'm sure Dave Meltzer captured that in The Observer. May of 1987, Memorial Day weekend. Marijuana on the Jersey Turnpike. All right, our last match doesn't really need to be talked about much. The World Wrestling Federation Championship. Hulk Hogan defending against Andre the Giant. Great build-up, but a terrible match. Andre will have Bobby the Brain Heenan in his corner. This is where all the celebrities come out. Bob Uecker, Mary Hart. Mary Hart was the timekeeper. Bob Uecker was the ring announcer. So Hogan would win this match. As much as I would have wanted Andre to win, Hogan was the biggest star. He was the messiah of professional wrestling at the time. So, you know, you need to keep the wave of momentum going. The wave of momentum being Hulkamania. As much as I hate to say it now, because I don't like Hogan anymore, you know, political views-wise. But anyways, Andre was a great threat, and it all started on Piper's Pit when Hogan got a trophy for being champion for 3 years straight, which hadn't happened in a very long time in the World Wrestling Federation. He said 3 years is a long time. Not in a congratulatory way, but in a sort of snarky demeanor, like, okay, I'm you know, it kind of an underlying message in his tone. 3 years is a long time. Like, I want a shot at that belt. It's time to lose it, basically. It was a euphemism. 3 years is a long time was a euphemism for you need to lose that belt. So, Andre would be dominating this match, and Andre was in such bad shape physically, and he could barely get around. Hogan wasn't much better. Hogan, while very charismatic and had a great look, and you know, at the time was influencing the kids or whatever, cannot wrestle worth a lick. I have the hardest time watching Hulk Hogan matches, unless it's WrestleMania 5 against Savage or 6 against Warrior, 18 against Rock. Those are the few exceptions. Other than that, it's so hard to watch a Hogan match. Come on, it puts me to sleep. It annoys me to death. Anything I could say negatively about it, I will. So Hogan would win that giant slam, because otherwise we wouldn't have a marquee Mania moment that we can look back on. So this moment has to remain untouched. Andre will win the belt, but he won't have to wait till the main event if I were the one booking this. So, and also, I forgot to mention, the build-up to this segment was great, because on Piper's Pit, Andre said, I want to challenge you, Hulk Hogan, for World Wrestling Federation Championship match at WrestleMania 3. Please, no, Andre, we're friends. It's not happening. You think you're friends? Well, get a load of this. And Andre pulls off his crucifix, and the metal of it cuts at Hogan's skin, so he's bleeding a little bit. He throws it on the ground, tears off his shirt and his crucifix, and Piper's like, "You're bleeding," because it was on Piper's pit. And finally accepts the challenge, and then the match happens, and that's that. So, that's all I got to say about WrestleMania 3. Magnificent card, magnificent crowd. Let me know what you think in the comments, and hopefully we can get a good discussion going. This has been another great edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I am your host, Harry Fling, and until next time, everybody, bye-bye.